It's a great pleasure to welcome to What's Next Robert Gwerengwe, who is the CEO of WesBank. Robert, firstly, welcome to you. It's lovely to have you with us. It's your first time on What's Next, so it's a great pleasure to have you with us.
Morning, Aki, and thank you. It's a privilege for me to be here. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, the WesBank brand. I mean, I've grown up with the WesBank brand. I've financed I don't know how many cars through the WesBank brand. Many people know the brand, but not necessarily the person leading it, which is you. And how would you describe yourself as a leader? And when did you join WesBank?
So I joined WesBank 8 months ago, but before that, I'm a veteran of the group, so I've been in First Rand for about 20 years, straight out of university. So I'm no stranger to the business. And as a leader, I like to create space for the teams around me to do what they need to, provide support in the background, and be really clear on where the business needs to go. But most importantly, my mantra is look after your people and look after your customers, and everything else will fall into place.
You've had a very strong career journey. You mentioned the 20 years since you joined the group, now leading up to the CEO of WesBank. It's a very strong career journey leading up to this position. What experiences have shaped your leadership style the most through this journey?
So I've had the privilege of being in a different parts of the organization. So I've had probably the one that shaped me the most was I moved to Motonova in the UK for a couple of years, 2014 to 2016, to set up their retail and consumer finance division there. So new country, no real support structure, different regulators and everything new, and a very small team to lead and to get this project running and landing quite quickly. So you learn quickly. I mean, there's nothing. I know our learned colleagues might disagree, but that's the best MBA you could ever you could ever do. I then did my MBA, but that is you learn as you go, and it's high pressure, but you walk out of it a completely changed individual leader, person. So I would highlight that as probably one of the key experiences that shaped that. And then being pulled into banking in F&B was also fantastic for me. I spent 8 years in the bank, truly understanding across the board the role I had. I sort of had a view across the board on all products, customer strategies, so the breadth of how banking actually works. And I had some experience in WesBank early on in my career. So to come back now into WesBank with that broader understanding sets me up, I think, to hopefully make a good impact.
So, what's going to be your vision for the next few years at WesBank? Because bearing in mind that there's so many changes happening in the world of mobility, we kind of know where it's going. So, what is your vision for the next few years?
So for the next few years, a massive focus on electrification. So I would want WesBank to be pioneering the infrastructure and the increase in number of electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles on the road. So that's number one. Number two, I'm a big fan of the African continent in general. I think there's more growth there than maybe meets the eye. So the vision is for us to be more relevant on the African continent as well in the next couple of years, and then look out for some innovation in terms of product structures that allow us to provide mobility maybe to people who today might feel excluded by the likes of WesBank, etc., we deal with the credit worthy, etc., and only a particular way can you afford it for 60 or 72 months, etc. We got to change all of that to be more relevant and help actually everyone participate either with their families or in the economy and help the economy move forward.
So just hearing what you were saying there about the finance, how do you see the role of vehicle finance evolving as consumers need to continue to change? So it sounds to me like you're adapting it as it progresses and as it evolves.
Yes, we're definitely adapting. So we won't lose focus on our core business today because we are very good at it and it does work and it does do great things into the market. This is just to have something on top of that we focus on a different market segment. Um, and there are lots of examples on the African continent because the rest of the continent doesn't have the advantages we have of great bureau data, great like the data we have is incredible. Lots of formal employment, which makes it easier to write credit. So some of the models we are learning from the other African countries around how would you do it. And there's more short-term product structures, there's more leasing, there's more so and it all still does work. We just need to figure out how we do that into our communities. I think, I mean, for example, in the township communities, I think there are massive opportunities we don't see because the money moves a little bit differently. So we need to move in that way and figure out how we participate and help.
It sounds like there's a lot of innovation happening, as in every industry right now, is shifting and changing. So, what does innovation in vehicle finance actually look like in everyday South Africans and in practical terms for everyday South Africans? And you gave us a hint over there on the data, because the data must be helping you a lot in innovating what vehicle finance actually looks like and will look like in South Africa.
Yeah, I mean, today we innovate a lot around how we structure our current products, how we price, how we can give more value to customers. You know, we learn more about future values. We like all of that helps us give better value to customers today. If you look into the future, then data is critical because we want to innovate around how we structure. Like we want you to be able to take a vehicle to work, and then someone else picks up that vehicle and uses it during the day, and then at night you can pick up another vehicle, and then you pay for that use. As an example, I mean there are lots of examples out there, and we would like to start piloting that. And also, if you talk mobility, you know, you're not just talking motor vehicles, right? So you've got motorbikes, you've got electronic bikes. I mean, those are big in the likes of Kenya, where you pay per use on an e-bike, but not to do the touristy stuff which you normally see, to actually go from point A to point B for work, leave the bike there, someone else can use it. At night, you pick up another one. So I think there's lots happening, like you say, lots of innovation. And I like the fact that it can all sort of have a foundation of electrification because batteries are getting better, much better, and also the cost of the batteries and the infrastructure to charge is getting lower. So we have to be on top of that wave now to sort of ride it out with our customers.
So trust and customer experience, those are critical things when you're doing in financial services as you are operating in. How important is that to you? And that trust and that customer experience in the industry that you operate today must be incredibly important.
It's massive. It's almost the only currency you really have. So for us, trust, particularly if we're going on a journey where we want to shift things in the market, you know, if we want customers to follow what we are saying is the right way to go, they need to trust us. And in the customer experience, I mean, I can't stress enough about the importance of customer experience. We want to make things seamless. We have, I think, the best digital processes in South Africa, but my challenge to the team is we want to have the best on the planet. Yeah, now that's a different ballgame altogether, but our mindset must be global in terms of what we deliver to our customers. Um, because some of the apps our customers use are global apps. So we have to compete there. So it continues to be a focus for us. And as we innovate, we will be innovating on customer experience as well.
Very interesting. When you mentioned direct access earlier, and I guess that every step along your leadership journey, you've learned different lessons. What would you say were your lessons that you learned in terms of leadership from your time at Direct Access that you're bringing into your new role? Because we link all of these things, we bring them in. What did you learn at Direct Access that you're bringing into your current role?
So a few things. The one thing is that to win long term, you need to be able to partner well. So direct access is phenomenal at partnering, as is WesBank. But it's really around how you make sure you have win-win partnerships with third-party providers, and then bring that in to say with your staff, how do you make sure that you lead well? I mean, we weren't necessarily the biggest brands in the market, but we still managed to have probably one of the highest retention rates in the market in financial services. So our staff didn't leave, still don't leave, because they believe in the vision. They can see their role in fulfilling the vision, and they can see the impact that they make in the lives of the end customer by doing the work that they do. So for me, that was a big thing, because you would think like the big brands can easily come and take your top 10 staff, but they stay because they love what they do. They feel empowered, and it's really you have to lead very differently when you don't have that in your armor. So when you're in a big brand, it's perhaps a little bit easier. But for me in direct access, that was a big lesson. And I was also a lot younger than the guys around the exco table, so just lessons around how to lead in that way, in a way that everyone still feels like they have a voice, and there are no challenges in that. So it very, very good journey for me.
Amazing stuff. Look, there's no doubt the fact that globally, with all the global tensions, the geopolitical stuff that's happening, you look at the price of fuel, you'd be sitting under a rock if you said that we're not under pressure financially. Everyone is around the world. So South Africa is not escaping any of this financial pressure. And when you look at South Africans and these financial pressures that we face, how is that changing the way that consumers approach vehicle ownership? I imagine, and I was reading some stats, I don't know if it reflects on where WesBank is, but people are holding on to vehicles for longer, is the sense I get, and they're looking for good value. So how are we approaching vehicle finance as South Africans?
Yeah, so I mean, the first thing, Aki, is that I like the phrase "never waste a crisis." So I think this crisis, with the war in the Middle East and the fuel prices, means that suddenly hybrid and electric vehicles become more of an option for people, because it's just the petrol price is just it's not workable. And if you go electric, I think your total cost of ownership on the component of your cost per kilometer, I think, halves. So it's a it's a big drop in your costs. So more customers are now willing to consider hybrids. For electric, not as much yet. I think there's still the range anxiety, and there's a lot of education we must do, and there's a lot of work we must do in the industry. But a lot more hybrids are being bought. In terms of value, so customers are realizing that, for, call it 300,000-400,000 rand, you can either buy a second-hand traditional brand vehicle, or you can buy a brand new Chinese or Indian vehicle with more features, etc., etc. So there's been more of a skew towards there, as more and more trust has been built in those brands, because there was skepticism around particularly Chinese brands, and the quality, etc. I mean, one of the brands, Cherry, has come up with a 1 million and a 10-year warranty, which is unheard of. So they're saying our product is great and it's so good, we'll give you a warranty that is mind-boggling, and that's what they do. So all of that is helping shape, but the word value is right, because customers aren't going for cheap; they're going for similar price but value, in that they get more features, perhaps a newer vehicle, etc., etc. So that's one thing we're seeing, and then if you look at new car sales, I mean, last year was 597,000 for the year. We think this year, touch wood, will probably be 615 to 620, that range. So the sales are still coming through, but you do have a part of the market that is holding on a little bit longer. But that's also because cars are being made better and better. So you don't experience the challenges you used to. I mean, for a lot of people, year 3, year 4, just before the warranty expires, or people will be looking to sell to get out and get into a new warranty, and that's not really a challenge anymore.
Interesting stuff. Are we seeing a shift from traditional ownership models towards more flexible mobility solutions? You touched on it earlier. Is that a trend? Is that happening?
Yeah, so there is a move towards. They're still sort of small as a proportion. I mean, we have a vehicle finance business in the UK, and leasing is now 90% of what they do, as opposed to the straight vehicle finance we do. So if we say, that's a market we sort of follow, but maybe not go as high, you can expect leasing and short-term mobility solutions to be more of a solution in the future, and they already are. And so we are frantically trying to innovate around that space, because it challenges our current model, which I love, because we'd rather challenge and disrupt ourselves a little bit than it happens to us.
So, what would you say are the biggest trends when you look at the industry and you look at how finance is evolving, the electrification, mobility, all of these things? What would you say are the biggest trends that are reshaping the vehicle finance industry?
So the biggest one, I mean, we can't sort of hide around the fact that Chinese vehicles are, I mean, 10 years ago, they were 0.01% of new car sales. And now on a month-to-month basis, they're sort of a third of new car sales, and trending up. So why that's a trend that's worth noting is that as a start, that's a big shift, and you have more Chinese OEMs coming to South Africa. What I like is that a lot of them are talking about manufacturing locally. Some have already made the move. Chery bought the Nissan plant, and they're going to start manufacturing there. Bike in Gqeberha has already started manufacturing there. And I hear a couple other brands are doing the same. So that will bring employment as well, and sort of sustained employment, because these guys want to build plants that can service the rest of the continent from South Africa. So that's a big trend, and it means the cars you see on the road over the next couple of years, I think you'll start to see. You're already seeing more cars from the east. I think there'll be even more. So that's one. The electrification comes with it, because the cars from the east are big on hybrids, and hybrids at a decent entry price. So I think hybrids and electric vehicles are going to become more and more of a factor in South Africa. And again, it's something we want to support, and make sure that we can get right, because it's got benefits that span across the entire spectrum for consumers, for the country, for the environment, etc. So that's something that we want to get into. And then the third one is the mobility solutions being quite different. So, someone wants a car for a week, as opposed to 7 days, not 7 years. How do we solve for that? And those are trends that we're seeing more and more. People are more worried about, well, I own this car, I drive it for 30 minutes to work, 30 minutes back. What happens the other 23 hours? So all of that is something we're working on around those short-term mobility solutions for customers.
So bearing that in mind and the changes that are happening where there are many, how should banks and finance providers such as yourselves respond to the rise of new vehicle brands entering South Africa? I mean, it's quite extraordinary. If you just look in the last 5 years, how many vehicle brands we've had. I've never seen such an influx of brands in such a short space of time. We've all been accustomed to having, big 5 or big 10 brands for decades. All of a sudden now we've got, double that amount of brands and perhaps triple the amount of models that are coming to the market in just such a short space of time. How should we be responding?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I mean, I'll tell one little story. So we were at the Beijing Auto Show, and I think there were 240 brands there, of which I think 190 were Chinese. So we have an influx, but we haven't seen anything yet. I think those numbers are going to increase there. I got Ubers or their equivalent Ubers in cars that I'd never seen or heard of the brand of the car. And you get in and it is beautiful. It is beautifully made. But I'd never, I saw it for the first time there. I think it's safe to say more and more brands will come. And then I think our role is to do the best we can for the OEMs coming in and ultimately for the customers. So we'll always try and support the entry and definitely have the best outcome possible for the end customer. But we mustn't forget that as the influx continues, we need to protect the jobs in South Africa. So we need to work with the OEMs and government around how do we ensure that as these brands come in, we are the place that they choose to manufacture so that we can have the jobs, and then it becomes, I think, a win-win-win for all. So for me, that's sort of, I think we all have to play a more active role in making sure that we get there.
Yeah. So there's no doubt about the fact that electrification is the future. Electric vehicles and new energy vehicles are continuing to dominate global conversations. It's certainly dominating our conversation. How do you see this unfolding locally? I know it started off a little bit slow, but compared to what's happening around the world, but it's certainly gaining a lot of momentum. How far, I mean, I'm going to ask you a very tough question. How do you see this transition unfolding locally? And a very tough question, at what point in South Africa, or rather in what year, do you think that more electric vehicles will be sold than combustion-driven vehicles? How far are we away from that inflection point in South Africa?
So we love our combustion engines here. So we love ICE vehicles. So it's not going to be a quick transition. I would say 5 years is probably a reasonable time frame. If it was before the war in the Middle East, it was probably longer. But I think what's happened now, where the fuel prices have gone through the roof, and it's happened overnight, and people have been left, some stranded, some you can't afford to drive your car to work. It's made people start to think about hybrid vehicles, and then some around electrification. And I think as and when the new models come in, where, I mean, there are cars where you can get a 600-kilometer range in a 9-minute charge. Like, you should have no range anxiety if you can charge for 9 minutes and get 600 kilometers. So as we get those in and the industry works together, so it's not a WesBank story, we'll do our part, but everyone must be doing their part to ensure that, one, the infrastructure is there, which is a big thing. I think it's been the deterrent, but having had a few conversations, I think it's something that is very doable. I think there are models you can employ. So let's see. I think 5 years is probably the inflection point, because, I mean, we do sell 620,000 new vehicles, so it will be a lot of new energy vehicles to bring into the market. But I think we can do it.
Yeah. And I imagine with this change and, vehicles becoming more accessible to people, the price points have certainly come down. The role that financial institutions are playing in making that mobility more accessible and more inclusive, that's a very important role you've got to play. How do you do that?
Yeah, so it's something that we work on an ongoing basis. I think it is critical. I think as an organization of our size in our industry, a big part of what we need to do is be inclusive and ensure that those that are currently feeling unseen become seen and can participate in the economy in a meaningful way. That drives us on a personal bit. Like the numbers, the profits, all of that's fine. That's, I mean, we do have shareholders that we must appease, so we work out towards that. But ultimately, if we can include more people in the economy, it is better for everyone else. So we are working frantically at getting unique innovations around how we structure our products, so that we can include more people in the economy, in mobility, have different types of solutions. And we're going to start piloting them. Sometime this calendar year, we'll start with some pilots. So you'll see, maybe we'll have another conversation in the next few months around that, as we go live, because I think that's very exciting.
That sounds amazing. I'd love that. And I'd love to stay in touch. because it's an industry that's changing very quickly by the sounds of it, and there's lots of moving parts at the same time. It brings its own challenges, but also it brings a lot of collaboration, because it sounds, to me, just having followed the industry for many years, you had finance and you had the vehicle manufacturers on the one side, and now today collaboration is even more important between the banks, between the OEMs, between dealerships and technology providers in driving that industry growth, because now you've got to provide energy to these vehicles as well. So it adds another cog in the wheel of this entire ecosystem.
Yeah, absolutely. And because we want to be spearheading it, we are probably the ones that have to provide the energy, right? So we can't say, here's an electric vehicle, go and find the infrastructure somewhere. If we want to change behavior, we got to say, here's an electric vehicle and here's the infrastructure, and here's how to make it work for you, given where you live, and etc. etc. So it is an exciting time, but it does bring, I think, the shift in the role that everyone plays. I think, I mean, the government, to be fair to them, is also looking to us for solutions, but very happy to work together on how we can get this right for all. So there's collaboration, and even our competitors in financial services, like there, to some levels, on some of this stuff, there has to be some collaboration, but we obviously always compete, and our game is to play to win. So so hopefully we continue to do that.
Yeah. As a business leader and you're leading a massive organization, how do you people look up to you for motivation, they look up to you for leadership. How do you personally stay motivated as a leader? Do you read a lot? Do you I imagine, you've got to take time off and you've got to recharge your mind because people are looking at you for answers, but what motivates you?
So what motivates me is the fact that we have this vision that will allow us to make a massive impact on this country and this continent. For me, that's a driving force. The other thing is I work with a fantastic team. I think the best team in the country, and they're all motivated to do all the right stuff. It really makes it easier to come to work every day with a team like that, and we're all aligned on what we need to do. And in terms of how I stay motivated, there's I play some sports to clear my mind and to help me get clear myself before I give direction, because it'll be difficult if I'm giving direction and my mind is sort of always clouded. So exercise is important. I enjoy books, so I'm not a big reader, but I'm a big listener. So I listen to podcasts, YouTube, and other platforms. But I love to learn, so I'm like I say I'm a perpetual work in progress. So I like to learn and develop and grow myself as I go. So I think the combination of those just results in me being motivated and really keen to make a difference. That's the key.
So when you look back a few years from now and your colleagues and the journey you've taken at WesBank, what impact would you like to say you made at WesBank?
So I would like to say that at WesBank, I helped spearhead the shift to electrification with innovation. I importantly want people to say, when he was in charge, we all loved coming to work. That for me, if we can get the strategic elements but get the people, because the people are the driving force. If they feel taken care of, if they feel like they have space to provide, to be who they are and bring their full selves and no judgment, and I think that then they can provide, they can give the most output. And if you got 3,000 people in your structure, one person is not the one that makes the difference. You need to make sure that all 3,000 are really keen to do the right stuff into the market. So for me, that would be it. And then obviously, WesBank is now a proper African brand. That would be amazing.
Very exciting stuff. And finally, Robert, what does the future of mobility in South Africa look like to you? I know we touched on it earlier about electrification. You said we're quite close to that point, 5 years. And I guess 10 years from now, it's going to be a totally different story. You know, I mean, you've been in environments in China where you've seen driverless cars, you've seen it all over the world. And I'm pretty sure that's coming to us as well very soon. So what does that future look like in South Africa, according to you? And out of interest, what car do you drive every day?
Yeah, that's a the second question is a very difficult question for a man in my position to answer, Aki. But
I know. That's why. Well, you're spoiled for choice, right? So I imagine that you've got to try and drive as many vehicles as you can because you get a feel. You deal with all these different service providers and OEMs. So I imagine you change your vehicle quite often. So I was just curious what vehicle you're driving at the moment. But we'll talk on that and the mobility, the future of mobility. So let's start with the easy question. The future of mobility in South Africa. What does it look like to you?
well, the future of mobility in South Africa, for me, looks like a lot more shorter term deals for customers. There's a lot more hybrids, electric vehicles. The ownership model gets flipped. Like in the past, it was, you growing up, owning a car yourself and having it paid off is like, that's the thing in your community, wherever you come from. If you come to Joburg to work, you get a car, you go back to Limpopo, and you want to show everyone the car that you bought. It's like a big thing, and you bought it, not leasing it. And I think that's changing. The younger generation, there's more of them that don't want to drive at all. They're saying, why should I drive? I mean, there's so many options out there. And there's also then more people saying, I would love to drive, but like it doesn't make sense for me to have a car that I own because I don't use it enough to justify. So I think the way of mobility is going to shift, and ownership probably is going to reside more in corporates and organizations with rental models shorter term, as opposed to I go and I buy my car, and over the next few years I own it outright. There'll be people changing more cars more often because technology changes so often. You don't want to have a 6-year-old car when the new car now is half the price of what your 6-year-old car was. So all of that changes completely the behavior of customers, and I see that starting to creep in, and I think that's the future. You're spot on about the cars, and I mean, since I took the role, I really have just been testing different cars. I mean, I can sort of talk about them, but a lot of what I've tested are the ones I didn't have any experience in. So the Chinese vehicles, I'd never driven a Chinese vehicle before. Um, and I've tried 6 different ones. I've got a 7th one I'm trying this week. And they're exceptional vehicles. They really are. So it's interesting, but it also is good education for me because before I took this role, those aren't the brands I probably would have picked for myself. Um, yeah, but yeah, very interesting. But I mean, they are incredible vehicles. So I've tried 6 or 7. I'll probably try a few more. But my sort of as a motor guy, I've got an Alfa Romeo Giulia, the Quadrifoglio, which is it's, it's the opposite of an electric vehicle. But it's a beautifully made car. So it's 8 years old, but drives fantastically well, and that I will struggle to get rid of, but I probably will get a hybrid and or an electric vehicle as a daily drive.
Well, I think there's a junior full electric from Alfa Romeo that's out there
There
at the
is,
moment, if I'm not
there is,
mistaken,
yeah.
which looks absolutely magnificent as well. Robert Gwerengwe, it's been such a pleasure chatting to you and getting into your mind and finding out what your vision is at WesBank. Thank you very, very much for your time and your insights. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Aki. Hope we stay in touch.
Absolutely. Robert Gwerengwe, CEO of WesBank.